My name is Jody, and I just retired from my super important yet super boring corporate job where I explain complex things to the C-suite executives in 5 minutes or less to get them to actually make decisions and do something. I will now take these corporate superpowers and do deep dives into current events and help to answer the obvious questions. And this is my podcast. Hi everyone. So usually there's a lot of snark in what I talk about, and today is not one of those days. As well as if you have any children, I would appreciate if you did not allow them to listen to this. This is going to be discussing the grooming of a child that started at 12 and then ended with the murder of her when she was pregnant with the law enforcement member's child. So anyway, this is about Sandra Birchmore, and I am hoping to help spread the word about this, as well as give parents options, because you can't just, my one corporate thing is, don't just bring a problem, bring a solution, because it's really easy. I always say the first thing you fix is the blame, but we also need to have awareness. And so that's why I want to bring this out. This is a case that I fell into following Karen Reed. It's a lot of the same cast of characters in this. I'm going to just give a brief overview. Like I said, she was 12 years old, being raised by her mother and grandmother, who have since passed. She joined the Police Explorers, which is a group for kids that want to be police officers as well as being at risk. So she joined at 12 years old, and one of the police officers, and she became, I'll call, friends. And that friendship turned into a sexual relationship. The cop's name is Matthew Farwell. He was a Stoughton police officer. Stoughton? I can never say that right because I'm not from Massachusetts, so I probably have the wrong accent, sorry. Who was fired after this happened. But anyway, when she was born in 1997, same age as my son, which also really hits me. She was on the straight and narrow. She had a really good job. She was pregnant with his baby. She was like 22 when this happened. So they'd had a sexual relationship since she was 15. And there are text messages in here, in the indictment, that he actually wanted to start at 14. And she was like, oh, I would have let you. I mean, it's just so disgusting and gross. This man is also married, and was having a child at the same time as Sandra Birchmore's child was supposed to be born. He got very angry at her about the baby and her wanting him to be included in things. And she reached out to her friends and said that he had gotten her in a chokehold, and was starting to get kind of mean with her. So on this day, she had gone downstairs, cleaned off her car because she had work either later that day or the next morning. I'm not sure. I think it was that day. Started a load of laundry, and one was in the dryer, one was in the washer. That's important for what's coming up. And he came over to her house. And there's video of it, Ring video. Can't you believe that? Actually, after Karen Reed, they actually had video. And he was the last person to see her. About 2 or 3 days later, when nobody had heard from her, and she has a dog too, so everybody's like, this is really weird. They did a safe check on her, and they found her strangled, and they did and I'm going to use air quotes, an investigation where they decided it was a suicide. Not only did the police, our joyful friends from Canton, yeah, you remember them? Yeah, they were in charge of this because she was living in Canton. And they declared this a suicide. And so did the medical examiner. You know, the same medical examiner that was being pushed by the Massachusetts State Police to find John O'Keefe as a homicide, which they never did, but were pushed really hard. Oh, and by the way, remember the Massachusetts State Police that were involved? Yeah, Trooper Nicholas Garino, who, as far as I'm concerned, is just a scum pig, and I have no use for him. He did not find anything on her phone or Farwell's phone to connect them. Somehow he missed 32,000 texts. Let's just let that number sit there. Not 5, not 7, 32,000 texts. So, yet again, going back to Karen Reed, I don't know how that fool's going to go on the stand. They're running out of police officers they can put on stand at this point because they're so corrupt there and just so negligent. So anyway, the police officer was fired. Yay, that's good, because he was found to have an inappropriate relationship. But our friends at the Norfolk DA's office, I know, isn't it weird? It's like the same people over and over again. It's like Groundhog's Day. They said no, it was a suicide, and they pretty much closed the case. Well, thank goodness for Josh Levy and the FBI. And again, as a libertarian, I cannot believe I'm sitting here praising the FBI, but they came in and they found all this evidence. I almost forgot. One of the other things that happened was her aunt filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Staunton Police Department and the city of Staunton. I will say this, they have acted better than Canton, but again, the bar is low, so let's not, have a ticker tape parade for them. But they've been pretty open about it. So the aunt hired Michael Bodden, forensic pathologist, and you probably know that name, I hope. He was from the OJ trial. He's a legend. He's like old as dirt now, but he came in and looked at it and was like, this is not a suicide. This is a homicide staged. And yeah, it was staged really well because, the police know how to stage things because, they investigate these things. Well, or in this case, don't investigate because, again, somebody that's going to commit suicide is not in the middle of doing laundry and is not cleaning off their car. That doesn't happen. When you're going to commit suicide, you're focused on it. And she booked a newborn baby photo shoot. Like, she was living her life and had a job, and it just didn't make sense. But, Canton police are going to cover for the Staunton police. So it's like, wink, wink, nod, nod. Now, understand this, too. There's a couple other police officers, including his brother, that we haven't heard anything on yet. But, I don't think the FBI is done. So anyway, the FBI arrested him yesterday, which is absolutely wonderful. And what isn't wonderful is the fact that right afterward, we heard from all of our friends, like the Norfolk Police Department, I keep saying police department, Norfolk DA is like, we stand ready to help out on this. Yeah, that your help is not what we need, dipshits. We, probably need good police officers, and good Massachusetts State Police is not who I would call. I wouldn't call them if I had a hangnail. And then we also heard from the coroner's office. It was like, this is, we're so sorry, we're open to assist. Yeah, that's great. You're the people that, for now 3 years have allowed this to be called a suicide. I mean, I wouldn't trust that coroner to do anything either. I wouldn't trust them to supervise the Massachusetts State Police and Norfolk DAs taking my hangnail off. I mean, they're awful human beings. So anyway, there was an arrest yesterday, and that's good, and it's a start. It's going to also, wreck the whole Karen Reed case, which, again, it's police corruption, and we're seeing it here. And, there's a couple others that I think there's going to be some other cases this is really going to impact. There was a woman that her daughter had been killed, and she thought it was a murder, and it was ruled a suicide, so she's been helping out. But anyway, what did I really want to do? I also want to talk about, I've talked about Sandra Birchmore. I'm not going to stop talking about her. Like I said, Canton, she lived in Canton, Massachusetts, and she died at 23. And nobody should die at 23, about to have a baby. But they also shouldn't be groomed. So that's the other thing I want to talk about. Hopefully the parents, there's a lot of parents on here, and if you're not a parent, tell parents. I show dogs, as I mentioned. One of the things that happened this year is the exhibitors have gotten tired of pedophiles being in the dog shows. I personally was at a dog show last year, and there was a known convicted child porn distributor. This is very important. He was in the Northeast. He was convicted. He went to jail. He got out of jail. Unfortunately, the state he's from, and I can't remember, I think it was Rhode Island. Sorry, Rhode Island, if it's not, did not put any requirements on his parole, so he was allowed to be by children. I was actually in the ring with him while he was staring at the junior ring, and I don't know how to explain how disgusting it was. It's like one of those things, if you know, you know. I went to the people putting on the show, and I'm like, can we get him out of here? And they were like, no. And I'm like, okay. at least can you move the rings so that we're not next to the juniors? It was a 4-day show, and it was the first day. Not only did they tell me no, but they threatened to bench me. And benching is like, they have this like adjudication at shows, and I would have been thrown out. I just want you to understand that I'm trying to keep a known child porn distributor away from children, and the gutter slime that was running that show, which I never go to anymore, went after me. Now, I will say there's a bunch of shows that actually put in their premium, if you are a child sex offender, you're not allowed. There's a lot of them in dog shows. I'm just going to say it. There's a lot of freaking pervs. And like in this case, I went to every junior's parent and I told them what he was so that they would guard after him. Well, it finally, blessed be the fruit, right before Westminster, it kind of blew up. And AKC and Westminster, they don't want to have, that's their time to, throw all of us great competitors in front and ignore the fact that most of the dogs bred in AKC are from puppy mills. I'll get in that another time. It kind of forced their hand. And it's really good because somebody that was an AKC representative who's now a judge had brought up this great program, and this is what I want to talk about. I'll put a link in. I'm not getting any money for this. I don't care about any money for this. Obviously, this podcast is demonetized because I'm talking about sexual assault, rape, child sexual acts. I mean, that's fine. It's called Safe Sport, and I've taken it. And like I said, I'll put a link at the bottom. Every parent, whether your kid plays a sport or not, needs to watch this. Anyone who wants to volunteer needs to watch this. It takes about 3 or 4 hours to do. It's so eye-opening of what the actual things that I was like, oh, well, that's totally normal. Now I look at different. It's like, oh. So I'm really recommending this to parents. Like I said, even children, probably not older children. Let's go with older children. Because again, no child should have to deal with this, but it's really, really good. And it talks about what to look for and what the key things that happen. And, one of the good things with AKC is they're forcing every, juniors judge to take this. And they're going to start doing some background checks. I mean, it's slow but steady, but we need to keep these kids safe. So anyway, I wanted to bring that up, and I am going to talk about Sandra Birchmore more. I was going to do this whole episode on corruption and add Tom Girardi in there, but at this point, I may do one later on him. He's the widows, orphans, and burn victims. Erica Jane's ex-husband. I was going to do something on federal, the feds having to jump in for the states. I'll do that later probably. I really just wanted to talk about this because this is so important as a parent to try to, to take this safe sport. But also I want you to hear her name. Her name was Sandra Birchmore, and she was a beautiful young lady who died while her guardians were trying to do the right thing for her and keep her on the straight and narrow. And these predators got in. And now she's gone. And we need to be aware everywhere. Yes, this happened in Massachusetts, and yes, Canton is a shit show, but it could happen anywhere. It could happen in any state. It could happen in any town. So we need to be aware. And yes, we want our kids to trust the police, but we want them to trust the right police. And after taking the safe sport, I can totally see all of the places that had her mother and grandmother known, they would have gone, that's a little weird. So anyway, we'll be back to snark next episode, I'm sure, but I really feel this is something that you just don't joke about. And please, share this episode to people. Talk about this, especially the safe sport. Like I said, I'll put the link at the bottom. I'm not getting any money. I'm not getting anything from it. I am certified by it. And you should be too, whoever you are. So I hope everybody has a great day. And Snark will be back, I promise.